Daniel Hayes had mastered the art of being invisible. Every morning before sunrise, he walked into the towering glass building of Arden Corp, pushing his worn-out janitor cart across marble floors that reflected everything except him. Executives in tailored suits rushed past, eyes glued to their phones, never once noticing the man who cleaned their mess. But Daniel didn't mind, because every evening when he returned to his small apartment, a pair of tiny arms wrapped around him like he was the most important man in the world. "Daddy, you're late again," his 7-year-old daughter, Lily, would say with a sleepy smile. "Work needed me," Daniel would reply gently, brushing her hair back. "But I'm here now." Lily had been sick for months. Hospital bills stacked up quietly, just like Daniel's exhaustion. Still, he never complained. Not to anyone, because no one was listening anyway. That morning felt different. The building buzzed with unusual tension. Important investors were visiting, and the CEO herself, Victoria Hale, was leading a critical meeting. Daniel had only seen her once before, powerful, cold, untouchable. As he cleaned near the executive conference room, voices spilled through the slightly open door. "Everything must go exactly as planned," a man whispered sharply. Daniel paused. Something in the tone wasn't right. He leaned slightly closer, not out of curiosity, but instinct. "Once she signs, the company is ours." Daniel frowned. Before he could hear more, footsteps approached. He quickly moved away, pretending to mop the floor. Invisible again. Inside the conference room, Victoria Hale stood at the head of the table. Her sharp eyes scanned every face. She didn't trust any of them. For weeks, something had felt off. Numbers didn't add up. Deals seemed manipulated. But there was no proof. So today she decided to test them. Without warning, she staggered slightly, then collapsed into her chair, eyes closed. Silence filled the room. No one moved. One executive cleared his throat. "She's probably just exhausted." Another chuckled nervously. "Should we continue the meeting?" No one stepped forward. No one cared. Outside, Daniel noticed the sudden quiet. Something felt wrong. He looked through the glass. The CEO wasn't moving. His heart skipped. Without thinking, he dropped his mop and rushed inside. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" he asked urgently, kneeling beside her. Still no response. He checked her pulse, his hands slightly trembling. "It's weak," he whispered. He turned to the others. "Why is no one calling for help?" They exchanged glances, but no one moved. Daniel didn't wait. He pulled out his phone and dialed emergency services. She needs help now, what Daniel didn't know was that Victoria Hale was listening to every word. And in that moment, everything changed. Victoria kept her eyes closed, but her mind was wide awake. Every second felt heavier than the last. She had expected hesitation, maybe confusion, but not indifference. Not from people she trusted with her billion-dollar company. And yet, none of them had moved. Except one, the janitor. Daniel stayed beside her, his voice steady but urgent. "Stay with me, ma'am. Help is on the way." His concern was real, unfiltered, human. Victoria felt something she hadn't in years. Trust. Moments later, the room shifted. The same executives who had ignored her suddenly began whispering among themselves. "Should we cancel the deal? No, this might actually work in our favor." Daniel froze. His eyes narrowed slightly. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Over the next few days, Daniel couldn't shake the feeling. He returned to his routine, but now he listened more carefully, watched more closely. And what he discovered was dangerous. Late one evening, while cleaning near the executive offices, he overheard the same voices again. "She's getting suspicious. Doesn't matter. The documents are ready. Once signed, we transfer everything offshore." Daniel's grip tightened around his cleaning cloth. This wasn't just betrayal. This was theft. At the highest level. He had a choice. Walk away like everyone else. Or step into something far bigger than himself. That night, as Lily slept beside him, Daniel stared at the ceiling. If he got involved, he could lose everything. His job? Their home. Her treatment. But if he didn't, an entire company and hundreds of lives could collapse. He closed his eyes and made a decision. The next day, Daniel did something no one expected. He started collecting evidence. Quietly, carefully, using his invisibility as his greatest weapon. No one noticed the janitor. No one questioned him. And that was their biggest mistake. But danger was getting closer. One wrong step, and everything would fall apart. The boardroom was silent. But this time, it wasn't ignorance. It was fear. Victoria Hale stood tall, her presence sharper than ever. "I believe," she said calmly, "there are people in this room who think I'm weak." No one spoke. Who think they can steal from me, from this company, and walk away. A bead of sweat rolled down one executive's face. "Let's test that theory." She pressed a button. The screen behind her lit up. Footage began to play. Her collapse. The silence. The whispers. The betrayal. Faces turned pale. Voices disappeared. Truth had a way of doing that. "And now," Victoria said, her gaze shifting, "I'd like to introduce the one person who didn't fail that day." The doors opened. Daniel walked in. Slowly. Humbly. Confusion spread across the room. "The janitor?" Someone whispered. Victoria stepped forward. "He didn't just help me. He saved this company." Gasps filled the air. Daniel handed over the evidence. Documents, recordings, proof, enough to destroy every corrupt executive in that room. Security moved in. One by one, they were escorted out. Power stripped away in seconds. Silence returned. But this time, it was different. Victoria turned to Daniel. "Why?" she asked softly. "Why risk everything?" Daniel hesitated, then answered simply, "Because it was the right thing to do." That answer stayed with her. Long after that day ended, weeks later, Daniel's life had changed. A better position, financial stability, Lily's treatment secured. But something else had changed too. Victoria. She wasn't cold anymore. She wasn't distant. For the first time in years, she was human. And slowly, between quiet conversations and shared understanding, something deeper began to grow. Not power, not status, but something real. Because in the end, the man no one noticed was the one who saved everything.